To use the gavel or it's not official. Hello, welcome everybody to the Thursday, January 19th, 2023 meeting of the Board of Adjustments. Welcome everybody to our first one at the new time. I believe for 3 months, we're going to try it at 2:30 and then discuss if that's working for everyone. Roll call. Mrs. Groom, please.
Mr. Connors?
Here.
Mr. Harshaw?
Here.
Ms. Barhu?
Here.
Mr. George? Mr. Betts?
Here.
Chairman Bowler?
Here. Thank you. Introduction of city staff. We have Miss Melissa Phillips, Development Review Technician, Mr. Ben Gross, Deputy City Attorney, Miss Becky Groom, our Board Secretary, and of course our IT Department. Approval of the December 15th, 2022 minutes. I can't talk today.
I motion that we approve our 2022 minutes.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second on December 15, 2022 minutes.
Great. Mr. Harshaw seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Minutes are approved. The new cases. Ms. Groom, if you could please read those into the record.
BOA 2023-001, variance from Article 6, Section 68C4A. A request by Tom Caffinks, for a variance from Article 6, Section 68C4A of the Land Development Code to increase the permitted fence height between the front property boundary and the front wall of the structure from 4 feet to 6 feet. This will allow a 6-foot-high fence to be erected around the property perimeter. The property is located at 934 North Halifax Avenue, parcel ID 530501190160.
Thank you. Mr. Cavings, should I just call you Mr. Tom? Come on up and let us know about your case, and please, for the record, state your full name and your address.
Thomas Caffinks, 934 North Halifax.
Okay.
Basically, I just want to be able to put a bigger fence around the property. It's a flag lot, and I really have no frontage on the road. So all the houses around me can put up a 6-foot fence, but I have one section where I want to put up a 6-foot fence, but it won't match the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just trying to kind of make it all look the same. And
Okay. I mean, I thought the application was pretty straightforward. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I have I was at your property today and walked back there a little bit. You're going to, all right, the oak trees that are the front of your house, the fence is going to be on the inside or outside of those? It's going to be closer to,
the oak trees are on my property.
okay, so you're
On the north side of the driveway, they already have a fence.
correct,
On the south side of the driveway, there is no fence.
correct.
But it's the section I want to fence is the north lot line.
You're not going to put a fence at the front of the house coming up to your easement?
I wasn't planning on it. That may be in the future.
See, that's why I misunderstood in
Yeah,
looking
me
at the
too.
package.
I thought you were going to do everything but the little entrance, so,
was asking for
Okay.
approval to do
Okay.
everything so that if
In
a
the
year
future,
the
yeah.
the neighbors change and he
Okay.
wants a fence there, he doesn't have to come back in a
Okay.
year to ask
Right,
for
right.
that again.
Right now, that section that's not fenced, I get along great with those neighbors.
Okay, the neighbors that sit on Halifax.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, so I really didn't want
yeah,
to
their
do
house is
anything
in
there.
pretty good shape, yeah.
And it's kind of a tight squeeze there. If I put a fence there, just maneuvering vehicles and stuff gets harder.
Correct, okay.
But oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And then you can't put a gate or anything on that because that's technically an easement that comes in there? So like as you're coming down that little driveway
Right,
off of Halifax?
right.
Okay, as you come to your, let's say to the front of your house, you wouldn't be able to close that off. If you did put a fence there, you would put it to there? I don't know if I'm making sense here.
To the mailbox, I guess I could put a gate there. I don't foresee any need to.
Okay. Because we're approving it, I just kind of want to have a vision of what exactly it's going to look like. So you're talking about the blue tarp,
Section,
okay,
That's
that's all
my-
going to be fenced?
yes.
Okay, and then the south side, the other side,
It's already got a fence on
already
it.
has a fence, okay. And then in front of the house,
There's-
possibly, but only to the easement or the driveway, if you will.
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
Same,
you're-
that's, go ahead, no, go ahead.
So you're repeating what Trey just said. You're only building, I mean, the fence that already exists, is that yours or is that your neighbor's?
It's, some of it's mine, some of it's the neighbors. There's a property on each side and the driveway's down the center. The one lot on the north side, that's their fence. Then on the south side of my property, that's my fence. Then there's, I'm kind of, I'm in everybody's backyard, so everybody's got a different kind of fence.
Right.
One thing I want to point out to the board members, if you look at page 2 of the staff report, which shows the existing survey for the property,
Correct.
and it shows the front of the house, which faces toward the left of the page, right?
Yes,
The land development code requires any portion of the fence toward the front entrance of that lot, even though you can't see it from the road, to be 4 feet.
4 feet.
And if you can imagine, normally that front part of the yard would be adjacent to another yard's frontage facing a street.
Right,
Here, it's facing the backyard on the north side of the property to the north.
correct.
On the survey, you can actually see the little red hash marks where they got their fence around there on lot 16.
Right, and for the rest of the property, he would be allowed to put a 6-foot fence anyways.
Behind is, if it's rearward from the property frontage,
Oh, so from the,
from the front plane of the building, I should
of the building, okay. So we're talking about these two corners, actually,
Correct.
Correct.
which are all areas that
or adjacent to the rear of
the neighbor could put a 6-foot fence. So basically, you could put a 6-foot fence, or 4-foot fence in those areas, and they could put a 6-foot fence.
Right,
Okay.
right. On the same lot line.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's kind of, it's, I guess by the definition in the book, it's my front yard. I mean, to me, it looks like it, that you call it,
Front yard is behind their backyard.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, to
yeah.
me, it's side, just like a corner lot. You got 2 side yards and 2 front yards and no backyard.
Right.
I feel like I have no front yard, but the definition says it
Yeah.
is a front yard.
That makes total sense. And for me, this is like one of those cases, exactly why this board exists, because there's these unintended things
Yeah.
that nobody would think about when they're writing
And,
this
yeah,
stuff.
the book's thick enough, you'd have to make it 3 times as thick to cover everything.
Exactly.
So are you intending to build any fence at any time along the edge of the 10-foot easement, right-of-way easement?
I am not.
Well, this board could not grant the gentleman any ability to build a fence over an easement. It's not his fee parcel.
Okay,
That would be a fence on
Right.
his neighbor's property.
right, okay, gotcha. That wasn't clear, and the survey shows it as a property, all in blue. But the
And
plat-
actually, it's interesting, the survey lists that easement as an easement and right-of-way.
Right,
So that potentially was dedicated in one of those older plats where things aren't as clear as they are in the current
The
practice,
ones you can't read.
as a public right-of-way, which the city may not have ever formally accepted or maintained, but would even be another reason why that fence shouldn't go right up to the street. Because the city, if all of that's true, and if the city's never previously taken over ownership or maintenance, the city could still do that under certain circumstances. Not that
Okay,
he
gotcha.
would, but he wouldn't be given the,
so we'd stop at the iron pins at the corners where that starts towards his house versus towards the road.
right.
Okay,
Yeah, because originally when I went out to the property, I didn't understand it because the variance sign was out at the street. And I looked and I thought it was the house on Halifax at first. I went, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I get a lot of
Which
FedEx,
I know
I
we're
get a
not
lot of
gonna-
bonus FedEx deliveries because they don't know where I'm at,
Exactly.
Imagine so.
It's a little unusual. Those 3 houses were all built at the same time in the 30s. They all got matching fireplaces, matching ceilings. And I think it was all on one lot originally. And somewhere along the line, it got cut up.
Okay.
That's way before I got there.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Wood privacy fence?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anyone in the audience to speak I think you're the only one. So 4 against, come on up. Yeah, sure. If you'd like to say something. And state your name and address for the record. Oh, yeah. Mr. Tom, you can sit down.
Okay, I will.
Hello.
I'm Janine Angelotti, and I'm the Blue Tarp. So my address is on University 210. And so I've had my house about 20 years, and Tom purchased it probably 6 years ago. And so I had a little issue with, I'm on a sand dune, and that property, the entire property is down low. And at one time, I did have a coquina rock wall that was holding my sand dune up, and trees that were 30 years old. And due to the fact that that's Tom's front yard, this is my backyard, I don't really go back there, you know? And at one time, I did have a privacy fence there, which was cut down with a chainsaw. So the reason I have the tarps up there is I'm rebuilding my sand dune at this moment. So I love that he wants to put a 6-foot wood fence up. That's fabulous. I just am requesting that when the fence goes up, it's not near that coquina rock wall, because I'm in construction of rebuilding the sand dune. So that's the only reason I'm here today, is for that purpose.
So it sounds like
I
you're
don't know.
for the fence in general.
Yes,
And then
I'm
as for
for
the
it. Where-
location, I don't know.
Yeah, I
how-
don't know where exactly it's the coquina rock, because everybody else in that backyard, where his house sits in the center, we're all on sand dunes,
Right.
you know? And everybody else's walls are intact. Mine's the only one that's been, you know, had a good time. And I don't understand Florida, so I've had a little issue with comprehending everything I need to do. So instead of doing anything, I'm just rebuilding my sand dune one day at a time, you know? And due to Nicole and Ian and then this freeze, everything I did put up there has taken a beating. And most of my shrubbery that was there was over 20 years old. You know, it had just been rooted in that sand dune and holding it.
Okay.
So I am a little bit of a dilemma in it. So all I'm asking is that wherever our property line is, I know when I put up a privacy fence around my yard, I have a chain link fence and a brick fence, and they said I had to come in this far to my property to put it up. So there had to be, even though the chain link fence was mine, they said I had to come in a little bit for the privacy fence. So I just am concerned what is left for that coquina rock wall, it stays. So I don't have any more
Okay.
work. That's my big
Okay.
concern. Yeah.
So I appreciate, your comments. I'm not sure if what you're saying is something that this board would be able to limit or condition, or,
Or where the fence
location.
goes?
Yeah. The location would be the location, wherever he's allowed to put it. If it's 6 inches in or right on the property line, I don't know the answer to that.
Do we?
But I bet somebody in this room does.
I mean, we allow the fences to go on the property line.
Yes.
So,
I guess the question is,
Where is it?
person who's, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I want to
Right.
know where it is, because the coquina rock wall that is holding up my sand dune should been somehow granted in on my land, as it is everybody else's, to hold that property up. It shouldn't be taken out any more than it already has. Somebody has been removing it.
So you
So
think-
I'm saying is the coquina rock wall, what you can see, what I can see, because I'm lined straight up with my neighbors. Their wall's here, mine was here. I don't know why mine's gone. And
Do you
so
know where the
everything
property
beyond-
line is?
It was-
Are you saying that coquina wall bridles both property lines?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like every other wall around that property, everybody has brick or coquina, and that is holding up.
Okay.
What our land is on. And so mine is deteriorating due to the fact that I'm the front yard.
Okay.
so the gentleman would have the right to put up a 4-foot fence with no approval from this board, just with the city permit.
Correct.
And it would have the
Where
same.
would it go?
On his property line.
No, I know that, but if there's a coquina rock wall there, you can't put a fence in it. So if it's both our properties,
The
that's what
city,
happens.
the city wouldn't typically get involved in boundary disputes between neighbors. And I don't think that our variance criteria would necessarily allow the board to get into that. What if your wall encroaches a foot onto his property? Do you know where, you don't know where it is vis-à-vis his
Oh,
lot?
yeah, I mean, it lines up straight. So the neighbor that he's talking about that just put a brand-new fence up, so they surveyed and they put their fence up, because my yard goes into their yard also. So it lines up straight up with the Coquina Rock wall. I mean, it's just straight there. So I'm not saying that one little piece of the rock maybe is on his part, but that's our property line, that wall is the property line.
Okay.
So,
But the wall has depth to it, so it can't, like, it may indicate the property line, but if it's thick, there's some that has to be on one
Yeah,
property
maybe.
or the other
You're
or
right.
both, and you don't know exactly.
but
how
what I'm
much-
not understanding is why would that be such a criteria in the sense that I have a brick wall on this side of my fencing, my property. And when I went to put up my fencing, I still had to come in. AAA fencing said, that's the Daytona Beach, whatever law that there was.
Well,
so.
and, those are facts that, we can't answer, and they may have been wrong,
Well, I suspect that the reason why the fence company would have said that is because the owner of the fence, while under our
Me.
code, the owner of the fence, while under the code, has the right to put it on the property line. We don't really get into whether the owner has the right to step beyond their property line onto their neighbor's property to wash their fence. So there's usually, as a matter of courtesy between neighbors,
Right.
the fence has moved in a foot or so from the property line, so that when the neighbor building the fence and maintaining the fence maintains, they're not encroaching on the other property.
and that makes sense, but if they told you you had to put a certain amount in, it doesn't sound like that is true, so,
Well, they may have a conservative position that.
Yeah.
How many times have they had to tear down a fence and rebuild it because they got into a dispute with the neighbor? So they probably, conservatively, they probably say, let's bring it in 6 inches from the property line, and we won't have these problems. Now, if you don't mind,
yeah.
Mr. Tom, do you see an issue with the Coquina wall?
Are you planning to remove
It's on
it?
the property line for sure, it's right there.
Okay.
Come to the mic,
Her
sir.
concern is the erosion.
Sir, you have to go to the microphone, please. We record these meetings, and we
right,
need
I'm
your
sorry.
testimony to be into the mic.
So
The
my
Coquina wall is right along the property line,
understood.
and it's not straight, it kind of waves.
Okay.
Understand her concern is the erosion, and I certainly would take due diligence to not cause any further erosion.
Are you planning on removing any piece of that coquina wall
No.
when you put up your
I do not
fence?
intend
Okay.
to move the
'Cause-
coquina wall.
I've been involved in these situations before, and it's usually a really good idea to get with your neighbor, because sometimes then there's a maintenance issue, because you have a fence here and there's a wall there, and then all of a sudden all the grass is growing up between, and we're thinking, man, we should have coordinated better, and we don't have this,
Yeah,
where
wind up
somebody's
with
trying to get back there with a weed whacker, trying to get this little area that's just a mess.
Or if you don't coordinate with your neighbor and the neighbor builds a dune that doesn't have a wall holding that dune in, your fence might not be strong enough to
Correct.
to
Yeah.
maintain the integrity of the dune. So
Yeah, I would just encourage y'all, maybe before you get started, it's like, okay, do we see any potential issues here between the wall and the fence? And is there too big of a gap where we're gonna have weeds and, all sorts of things, or,
I mean, I'm gonna work
as
off,
good neighbors do.
I'm gonna work off the survey and go by what the survey tells me the lot line is, and I intend on having my fence at least a few inches away from the line.
Right.
Okay.
But I'd imagine that the fence will be close to the wall.
And that would be fine with you, it sounds like. You just don't want the wall removed.
Right, what is
Okay.
left of it.
Okay.
It's costing me quite a bit just to rebuild the standard. I'm not anticipating, to put a bunch of dirt in there, it's gonna be a nightmare. I'm putting trees in, and then they're rooting, and then I'm adding the next section. So I don't want a nightmare for him or for me.
Okay.
We already
Yeah.
have it. And so I don't want it again, so I wanna be a team player in this. What's happening is that soil and land my house is really old, so the land's old.
I'm sorry, ma'am, could you come up to the mic?
Yeah, sorry.
We record the meeting, so we need
Okay,
the testimony to
The
be on
land
the
and the
mic.
soil is really old, like the house. And so everything that touches it, it just begins to erode. It's, unfortunate, but I've got enough bushes lined up there that it's locked. And then I just have to come down another tier. And then when that locks, I'll do another tier. And I'm not going to go too close to that coquina rock to do anything. Just
Okay.
going to make sure everything, on this side of it is locked.
Okay.
So I'm not anticipating it's going to fall. I don't want him to have a bad fence either, because the fence benefits me also.
Oh, right.
It's a
It sounds
win-win
like you
for
guys
both
are going
of
to
us.
benefit each other, so
Exactly.
it would be.
Yeah, I'm happy about it because I unfortunately can't put anything in the soil right now that will hold it. I've tried.
Okay.
And it's just not staying.
And if he
So,
butts that fence up right up to
I
the
don't
wall,
care.
that wouldn't
Yeah.
even bother
Yeah, I
you.
just
So
don't wanna remove
that
anything.
is leeway that you have, it
Yeah.
sounds like. And it sounds like it's in your best interest, like Mr. Harshaw said, that you work with each other.
Yeah.
But I think if the coquina wall is on your side, he wouldn't be able to remove it anyways. If it was on his side, there's probably not much you could do. And if it was on both, I don't think either of you could mess it up because you'd be destroying the other's part of the coquina wall. So
got that.
it sounds like the cheapest option is to work together.
I agree. And certainly, I mean, I've seen cases where a fence actually helps hold a dune in place.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I would just be cautious about that. You don't want all that dirt piling up against the fence because then your fence is going to rot because it's going to be below the soil, termites and everything else. It'll be rotted very, very quickly. So, yeah, you'll need to kind of work in,
I don't think there'll be any. I'm not putting dirt that close.
yeah, because if her dune is collapsing over onto your property and you build this fence, you're going to be out there with a shovel on a regular basis trying to move all the dirt out, and that's going to be no fun. I've been there, done that.
Are the survey markers still out there?
Yes.
Okay. So, and those are they don't involve the coquina wall at all?
I mean, there's coquina wall all around the property.
Okay.
And the survey markers,
But as far as this boundary, I mean,
the markers are close to the coquina wall, yes.
they're close, but not, okay. Does that answer your question? I don't know if any of what you said is before this board, really.
Like I had to come today to communicate because my other neighbor said if I did, because I'm the one getting the fence.
Oh, right.
Everybody else around is getting it. And so I just felt like if I didn't show up, then shame on me.
Yeah,
I
no,
just
that's
wanted to
good.
comprehend what was happening.
Yeah.
I'm in complete agreement with the fence. Don't
Okay.
get me wrong. I want him to have what he wants back there. I just wanted to make clear what I'm doing.
Okay.
too, And I'm not anticipating to pour dirt back there and damage anything. It's just
Okay.
it's not happening,
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. It sounds like everyone's happy. Hopefully it stays that way. Okay. So I don't think there's anyone else here. Do you have some more questions? Any more last minute comments, questions, anything? No one else here. So do we have a motion for this case?
I move that case 2023-001 be approved as requested.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Ms. Barhu? And,
Roll call.
yeah.
Mr. Connors?
Agree.
Mr. Harshaw?
Yes.
Ms. Barhu?
Yes.
Mr. Betts?
Yes.
Chairman Mueller?
Yes. Okay, congratulations.
Good luck.
Good luck to both of you.
Thanks for working together.
Yeah. Nothing a cold beer can't solve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Over
right.
property lines. Preferably Budweiser. Okay, case B, Mrs. Groom. I see somebody out there, I think, walking around. I don't,
Let me check.
I'll go ahead and read the case.
I saw him before. It looked like somebody that,
Been there before?
well, that worked for maybe a company, like
yeah.
didn't look like the property owner necessarily.
Let me go ahead and read the case.
Yeah, I think. so, yeah.
BOA 2023-002, variance from Article 6, Section 68C4A. A request by Garrett Kavanaugh of DR Horton Home Builders on behalf of ADJ Champions Quarters LLC and DR Horton, Inc. for a variance from Article 6, Section 68C4A of the Land Development Code to increase the permitted fence height along the rear property boundary from 6 feet to 8 feet. This will allow an 8-foot-high fence to be erected along the rear property boundaries of lots 1 to 20, which abut an existing single-family neighborhood. Properties are located on Wicker Way, lots 1 to 20, in the newly developed subdivision Champions Quarters.
Thank you, Ms. Groom. And thank you, Ms. Phillips, for checking in the lobby to see if there was anybody out there for this case.
So, Madam Chair and board members, the applicant is not here. That does not prevent you from rendering a decision on this case or discussing the merits. However,
I think in order to observe due process, it would probably be a good thing to just continue the case and give the applicant till the next meeting to show up here and make
Okay.
their case.
And Ms. Phillips, did you have the impression, you said they indicated they wanted to be here?
They did.
Okay.
I haven't heard from them
Okay.
in a few days, since
Okay.
last week-ish.
And they knew about the new time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. I did have a couple questions, you know.
Well,
so-
I think it would be better to ask,
Yeah,
if you're going to
exactly.
continue, it would be better to have the record at just the next meeting.
Right.
Right, I
Any
agree.
Questions
Okay.
then.
I agree.
So we need the motion for next meeting? Is that
To
what we need?
continue, you would need
Okay.
that, yeah.
Okay, I motion that we continue with case B at our next meeting in February 2023.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Harshaw? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Everyone's in favor. So we will continue case B until the February meeting. And that moves us on to a review of the cases.
Case A was approved 5-0, and case B was continued to the next meeting.
Okay, great. And so is there any new business? I don't know of any. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say and get into the record?
Yeah, I had a question. I've found this, is this part of case B?
Those photos are actually in your packet, but Mr. Betts asked me to print them out and have them here for you guys to discuss, because he
Okay.
had some questions or
Yeah,
suggestions.
add some
Yeah,
details to
case
go over,
B.
'cause
Yeah.
And should we just keep case B and then you don't have to, like, are they going to be allowed to add stuff to the record maybe?
They
But-
don't typically.
Okay.
I will send you anything.
Oh,
if
okay,
they
okay.
do.
So we'll just kind of keep it for next time. Great. Well, with that, we will adjourn. See you guys next time.